everyone, and thank you very much for joining me. I, of course, am Rotype, and I'm back with Mouse Gunner for another episode, Factorio semi-tutorial series. How are you doing, Mouse?
I'm doing good. And what do we have for our lovely viewers this episode?
So today we're going to do the same thing we do every night. Well, sort of, maybe. We're going to copy this and start getting more of our raw materials automated. Namely, the copper one will go here, and then if we have time this episode, I'd like to try and get it laid out for steel, which, if I remember correctly, is one of our next researches.
Oh, okay. So it needs to go. For a second there, I thought it was going the other way.
Yeah,
All right, I'm having a hard time drawing this out in my mind. So it needs to.
Sure, I'll go ahead, and this might be a good time to, especially because I have no resources. We can talk a little bit about these ghost images now, because I don't have enough resources to kind of draw all this out or lay all this out myself. I can lay these ghost images. You can see these kind of very faint stone furnaces here. And the way I'm doing that is simply by holding shift down and placing things as normal. And that'll place this ghost image. When we have robots, that is used to explain to the robots what you want them to do, which we'll get into much more detail about robots later. In the meantime, it basically just tells Mouse what I want him to do. So I can run around and lay these ghost images down, and he can go in and fill them in.
Okay, that helps definitely because for me getting these down. Now, maybe can you explain, or I don't know if you have exactly, is there a set number that you do these things away, or is it just more the shape that is important?
So there are a lot of different, well, maybe not a lot. There are a few different theories about this, and it kind of goes back to that ratio thing I was talking about before, where in theory, everything has some perfect ratio of efficiency. And in this case, it's based on how much ore you can fit onto a belt and how fast that belt is going. So you can imagine, and I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but let's just say transport belt can carry enough ore to run 5 furnaces, at the rate that a furnace uses the material, right? So a furnace has some ore per second that it will consume, and then the transport belt will transport some ore per second. So if you match those, then you're all set, right? You can deliver exactly as much ore as you need for the machines to run. And like I said, I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, and it also varies based on how fast you are crafting, how fast you're smelting. So if I hover over one of these stone furnaces, you can look on the right, and you'll see at the very bottom, just above the actual materials, you'll see crafting speed 1. Now that is what a stone furnace does. Eventually, we'll get better furnaces, steel furnaces, and even electric furnaces that have different crafting speeds. And then even with electric furnaces, you can get what are called speed modules, which basically do exactly what you would think. They would modulate the speed of the furnace. So you can start getting all these different numbers, and you got to multiply things together, and then transport belts run at X speed and all these other things. Long story short, I generally just go with the shape. There's a lot of explanation for it, not a big answer, but in general, you just want the shape, and if you're really going to be fussy about it, there's an ideal number.
How did you do this interesting little curve here?
Yeah, so what's happening here is this underground belt is backwards. So if you look at it carefully, and it's a little easier to see sometimes if you like stick another one, you can see the arrows are going down.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
One on top here and see.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
The underground belts will always go kind of start to finish. There's no way. I mean, you can rotate them before you put them down, but it doesn't quite work the same. If you've already put them down, for example, you can. I've actually never done this before. Wow, even I've learned something. You can rotate them after you've put them down. That's got to be a new feature or something. Huh.
Right.
The more you learn. suppose another thing we can mention that not everybody immediately knows about is, see how I have nothing in my hand right now. I don't have anything selected. I can still rotate stuff. Simple, but sometimes people don't always know. And it's useful if you don't have, say, a transport belt. You want to replace the direction, you don't have to. You can just change the direction around.
It's time to produce more inserters. All right,
Yes,
so
eventually we'll get everything, all the annoying little things produced automatically. We won't have to deal with that. It's always a nice day.
and it always does surprise me how many things you need to build things sometimes. The number of inserters you need.
Yes, I mean, that's the name of this game to anybody that's played it for a while. It's always just, oh, I need some of this. I need some of that to make that. Well, I need some of this too. Just adds up.
Because if you just do the math here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you need 2 of those for one bank. So that's 12, and then another 12 on the other side. So that's 24 inserters just to get this sucker going.
And the next thing will be, we don't actually have the mining of copper being done electrically.
Oh, we should.
Go ahead and do that right now.
Didn't I set that up?
Oh,
or?
yep. Yeah, we did. I
I did that
bad.
sneakily. I didn't tell you about it.
Yes.
All right, so
now
that's
we'll
all
be
hooked up. Now we just need to get the copper over here, which I think is happening over
did.
here. So eventually it will trickle down. There it
I
goes.
was going to ride the transport belt, but it's too slow.
All right.
Great. Now, take a look at the queue here. Yeah, so after automation 2, we will unlock the ability to produce steel. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, just kind of mimic this layout twice more, and that will give us some steel production. But I will go ahead and explain it once it's built.
And right now I'm just taking care of the coal situation because it looks like we're a little lean in the coal here. It's not, I would say, catastrophic, but once we get the furnaces all running, it will maybe lean out a little bit more. So I'm just going to bring up the coal production a little bit.
Coal can be dangerous too, because then if we do run out of coal, obviously we don't have the fuel for our power. And that's a bad place to be.
And did we mention the area that a miner covers? So there's a little highlighted area when you're placing a miner down, and that's the area it's going to draw from.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. We can also kind of talk about the theories on ideal miner layout, which certain people have very strong theories on, others don't. It's similar to almost anything in this game. There's what some people may call an optimal manner, an optimal layout, but it all depends on what you're trying to optimize exactly. So I'm in the habit of not having the material I need to discuss what I'm talking about, but I'm in the habit of laying them immediately next to each other, like these two. And I figure that's just because I want maximum per second output of whatever that material is. And so in that manner, you line them up like this. You can fit as many as possible in the patch, and that way you get a greater number of miners equals a greater number per second of material. Other people have theories where, as you can see, there's this green area around the miner. So you can imagine if I put this one here, even though the miners aren't on this space, it's still being mined by them. I believe the theory behind that is something like you will last, because you have a lower number per second or per second, your patch will last longer, and then you won't have to go find a new patch as frequently. Again, some people have very strong opinions. I don't have a strong opinion. I just have a habit You could also space them by 1, and it also doesn't really matter. The only thing that it really comes down to is, are you getting per second? Because either way, if you leave them spaced out and you don't have enough per second, you either need to space them together or go find another patch. And it's just everybody plays it differently.
All right, so that definitely brought up the production, starting to fill out a little bit more. I did pick up the old coal production. I didn't feel like we really needed anymore. And I think we already did that with the copper. Looks like that's all picked up.
Yes, I did.
And we still have our iron running. Do you want me to pick that up as well?
Sure. Yeah, and it's nice to kind of get rid of the old inefficient materials when we don't need them anymore.
And the downside of the burner mining drills is once you get out of this early stage, there's not really a reason to keep them around. At least as far as I understand.
Yes, there are. I believe the burner miners may be the only thing that is just completely useless after it gets outclassed.
So,
Maybe your original tool is also useless. Almost everything else in the game can either be utilized, or I sometimes burn my small electric poles as fuel because you can do that and they're otherwise useless when you get the larger electric poles. But the burner miners are they're just useless.
so I just built a crate and this is the junk crate, so I just put all the burner mining drills that were from our old setup, and I just slapped them in there. So it's out of my inventory and out of mind, out of sight. Oh, I can see it, but at least it's out of my inventory.
If you shoot them, they won't exist anymore.
Oh, I won't do that yet. It's sentimental for now. All right. I do want to go up with the copper production as well, a little bit. Not as crucial as iron production, but still good to have some going.
Yes, the copper production, early game, you don't need too much. And then late game, you need exorbitant amounts. Once we start building different types of electronic circuits, you can never have enough copper. Well, I'm almost done here with my initial steel kind of layout, after which we can kind of go over exactly what I have going on here and why I have it a little bit different. It looks very similar, but a little bit different than the normal layout we've been using for our furnace columns.
One advantage of this belt is it takes me along a little bit faster. The unfortunate side is we don't have belt going the other way, so...
Well, eventually we'll get roads. We can build like concrete and stone roads. We can get express belt if you really want to go fast. We can get cars and drive them on the express belt.
Oh, looks like I'm out of stone, so... Let's go over there and... Far reach.
I just had this problem in my single player game where I have this big bus laid out, and even with I have a very large monitor and I run at a pretty high resolution. I zoom all the way out and I still can't see the other side of my base to pick up whatever I'm looking for.
Yeah, see, I have the habit of running for things, and that is kind of a hard habit to break yourself of. It just, mentally you say to yourself, you gotta go over there to get it, but with this mod, you don't, so...
And you'll never be able to go back to playing vanilla, because once you get used to it, you'll never want to run anywhere. You're like, gotta run to go get that? No, I don't want to do that.
All right. So draw me some lines here.
Y'all just talk about ghost images and I haven't done it yet.
Ooh, helps if you put the belts the right way around.
I'm out of belts. Okay. Oh, and of course we need inserters. Still missing a lot of materials.
So in this case, you're taking the iron plate production eventually, and you're putting it into steel production, from what I'm gathering here.
Right. So our science is moving very slowly, but eventually we will unlock the production of steel, which is basically just a refiring of iron. So I have this layout here, which looks exactly like our normal iron production over here, except this output belt is backwards. And I kind of messed up this area a little bit. Sometimes it can be a little cleaner, but it does this little jog over here to the left and then goes under and then over to the next column where you can see we're not taking anything from our raw material bus. We're just taking the iron that is output of this column and sending it right back in over here through the same kind of splitting mechanism with the coal for this column. And the reason we can do this is because there's a direct 1-to-1 ratio, at least as far as I remember. I might be wrong on that, but I believe there's a direct 1-to-1 ratio to producing the iron to producing steel. Although now that I say that out loud, somebody's probably going to comment and say that's wrong. Don't quote me on that. I think it is. Sometimes that's the problem with this game is, I play for fun and I like to be pretty efficient and I try to do it right, but some people get really into the exact number. As we were talking about with the miners, some people have very strong feelings about the ideal way to do this or that or the right ratios.
Well, my approach on everything is, does it work? That's all I hate. That's good enough for me. But I also, efficiency, it does get you, it does get you results. So there's something to be said about it. But just my brain, the way it works, I just want to get the job done.
Yeah, you really run into the efficiency stuff there are people who try to launch the rocket, the final product. Yeah, I believe even like once per minute, maybe even faster than that, which I mean, it requires a very large factory and or one that is very, very efficient. So you can actually produce all of the required items that quickly. There are also several different achievements, a few of which are launching the rocket within so many hours of game time. The one I know of is, I think, 8 hours, and then there's another one at 15 hours or something. The 15 we probably won't hit because we're doing this in a tutorial manner, but the 15 hours is probably not super hard to hit. But if you're trying to get 8 hours of game time to the end, you need to be pretty efficient and also just kind of know what you're up to. That also kind of says what kind of game this is, where it's a significant achievement to spend 8 hours. It's still an achievement for 15, and most people have many, many more than that.
Okay, I'm noticing that this is not working. Is there a reason it's not working? We have enough
because we haven't actually researched steel yet.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
We were just doing some prep work.
I feel like our science has stopped. I'm going to run back there and find out why.
Well, I might as well run with you because it's my project and I need to be embarrassed.
Okay, something looks okay from here. No gear wheels. Why are there no gear wheels? This is interesting.
How do you know that there's no gear wheels? From where?
So if you open up the science factory assembling machine, you can see there are 2 copper plate and blank gear wheel. Why this is running, it looks like perhaps the splitting off of material for producing the transport belt is actually leaching material. This is another thing where if you know the ratios, you might have been able to explain this immediately, but the furnace will produce X amount of plate per second. The gear wheel factory will consume it at Y per second. Et cetera, et cetera.
Well, one way I could have done this a little bit maybe more efficiently is put a box in, so that way the gears are always being produced, maybe?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people will end up doing things like that with buffering at various levels.
Yeah, so that's probably something I should do, is set up a crate that we draw off of rather than the way it's being done now. So I think that's going to be a little micro project that I work on in the next episode, as a matter of fact, because it looks like we're at a good stopping point here. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner and Rotype signing out.